Hello once again, watchers of The Walking Dead. My name is Nick Pell, and this is once again coming from my college dorm room. Now, last night, which was Sunday, The Walking Dead Season 4 had its conclusion, and it was a very interesting conclusion, if anything. I'll be talking about the entirety of Season 4, so both parts 1 and 2 of the season. So know that. Also, if you're not caught up on Season 4, I would suggest finishing before watching this because things are going to get spoiled for you depending on how far you are. So diving right into it, Season 4 starts off with a huge flu going throughout the prison. At the end of Season 3, it kind of disappointed me by its anticlimactic ending, but we get to see what's all happening and what has transpired. We have all these people that were originally in Woodbury have now integrated into the prison, and it's this large community. Rick is also still trying not to really be the head honcho or the leader of this place anymore. He's just trying to survive and be a part of the community, and they have this council and a bunch of different things. And the prison seems fairly secure. The first few episodes, they really expand on the whole Tyrese as a character and integrating him into the cast. And we really see Rick and the gang living a semi-peaceful life in this place. There are runs that people go on, and it's just a half-decent community to live in. Because Season 4 was a fair amount ago, I'm not really remembering a whole lot that happened during that season. So if you want to see more detailed synopses of certain episodes, you can click the link up here, which will have the playlist for all the episode reviews that I've done with my roommate Anna. We stopped doing those reviews mainly because of time constraints and because she didn't have time to sit down and watch them, and we didn't really have time to film them. Those go up until about episode 10 of Season 4, and so you can reference those if you want to get a better idea. Towards the end of Season 4, Part 1, we get the governor reintroduced into the picture. One of the episodes ends with him just looking off over the prison, and we get 3 episodes which focus exclusively on him, and we see what he has generally been up to since Woodbury essentially ended. And then the mid-season finale deals with him with the group of people that he has collected, and they are essentially trying to attack the prison and take the prison. The governor convinces all these people that Rick and his group are these terrible people who killed his daughter, and basically manipulates them for his own gain. And what was really interesting about this was the fact that the governor almost seemed like he could redeem himself, because we see like it seems like he is trying to change and become a better person, but then I think in the second episode that he has on his own, he kills one of the guys who was with him at Woodbury just like that, and we see that the governor has not really changed. He's still out for revenge. He's still a killer. That's how it goes, basically. He takes power in this group of people for himself, and he ends up storming the prison with a tank, and all hell breaks loose. People get killed. Herschel gets his head chopped off in place of Tyrese, who did in the comics, and that was a very saddening death because Herschel is a very good character, and he's a really interesting character. He's kind of the good moral person of the group. He is the religious one, and he has this great moral compass in his head, which he uses a lot to kind of guide Rick and show him you don't have to just survive, you need to learn how to live again as well. And that was kind of the focus of the first half of the season, and then a little bit more in the finale. But after all hell breaks loose in the prison, everybody gets separated and after these events, and then we join up with some of them in the episode after, which is the mid-season premiere. It basically starts off with Rick and Carl on their own. Rick is just beaten bloody with his confrontation with the governor. Governor's dead now also. He's killed by Michonne. They find this house, and it's basically Carl kind of trying to prove to himself and subconsciously his father that he can survive out here on his own, and he can live and take care of himself. and he eventually breaks down. He realizes that he needs his father and he would be lost without him. Michonne eventually finds them. She goes off on her kind of own journey with kind of demons in her head following her, and then those three stick together for a good chunk of the season. Actually, for the rest of the season, they stick together. Another group is Daryl and Beth. These are two individuals who, when they are shown, I'm pretty sure they have just episode exclusives with just the two of them. The first one in particular was one where it's basically after the fact of the prison is gone, and Daryl is just depressed, and he's just like, what's the point anymore? And Beth kind of snaps him out of it because she decided that she wants a drink, and because she never had one, and Daryl decides to help her get that. They kind of bond in this episode as well, and it brings them closer together, especially when Daryl gets extremely drunk and starts to yell at her and kind of brings out a lot of his feelings that he has regarding the prison and how he kind of blames himself for the whole thing. They burn down the house, which represented kind of Daryl's childhood and the life that he is now leaving behind. And they become a very cohesive unit. Eventually, they get separated. Beth drives off in a car, and Daryl tries to run after her. He gets separated from her, and he meets up with this other group. I'll get to them in a minute. Another group of people, we have Tyrese, Lizzie, and Becca, and then Judith, who is still alive. And they are all surviving very quickly. Into their episode, we see that Carol is back. Who could have thought of that? That was sarcasm. And so the four of them, well, five of them, become something of a unit. We see that Lizzie is still crazy, basically, because she almost suffocates Judith, and she would have probably if Carol hadn't arrived when she did. Then, fast forwarding a little bit, as the group is starting to make their way to Terminus, they come across a farmhouse where they stay for a few days, and this is where Lizzie essentially loses it, because in this episode, which was supposedly the most talked about episode of the season because of the people who died in it, Lizzie kills Becca, and then she wants to bring back her sister as a walker because she has this perception in her head that the walkers are actually people and they're trying to be understood, but they can't be understood. And she tries to befriend them, and Carol and Tyrese are just very concerned for her. And so Becca gets killed. Carol and Tyrese kind of decide we need to get rid of her because she is going to be a problem, a liability, and she is kind of losing it. And so after Becca is killed, Carol takes her out and shoots her in the head. She does this very regretfully because she has replaced Sophia with these girls, and so it's like she's losing her child once again, but not in the truest sense. So then that is the last that we see of Carol, Tyrese, and Judith in this season, because they walk off, they look like they're heading to Terminus, and then we don't see them for the rest of the season. So my assumption is that in season 5 we will see them probably the first episode, if not the second episode. And then the last group is Glenn, and he quickly meets up with Abraham, Eugene, and girl whose name I don't remember, and he is very adamant about finding Maggie because he believes that she got out of the prison, and he kind of partners up with one of the girls who was in the governor's group who survived, and they kind of encounter one another, tensions and butting heads and whatnot. And like I said, Glenn very adamant about finding Maggie and basically just works with them. And then in the penultimate episode, he finds her. We see a little bit of Maggie, Sasha, and Bob in the season, but they don't really seem to have a huge part in it because they're only shown a few times. But Maggie is just as adamant about finding Glenn as Glenn is to Maggie. So it's nice to see that they actually do find each other and one of them doesn't end up dead. And then the group that Daryl ends up with, they have this code that they live by, which is basically if you lie, you die. So if it's shown in the first episode that these guys are really introduced, that one of their current members tries to pin a theft on Daryl, and he gets called out for it, and it's shown that he was lying, and so the guy gets beaten to death. And so that's a happy thought. And Daryl kind of adjusts to this system because it's structured, and it's a system of rules that he can adhere to and live by, and it's something that works in this chaos that has become his life. And so, yeah, that's where we find Daryl, and they're hunting down essentially Rick, because Rick strangled one of their men when they all entered the house that him, Carl, and Michonne were staying in. And then we have the season finale, so we're talking about that, so spoilers, be warned. The episode is very Rick, Michonne, and Carl focused, because we have them still heading off to Terminus, and very quickly, well, the episode is actually very interesting because it's flashbacks. We see the prison before all the chaos happened, before the flu epidemic began, and we see Rick basically trying to stray away from becoming the monster that he has become because of the governor in Woodbury, and because of all this time surviving that he's had to do. And Herschel is trying to morph him into, instead of a fighter, a farmer, and showing him that there is a way to live instead of just merely surviving. This is kind of a back and forth theme that resonates throughout the whole episode, and it's something that Rick tries to do for Carl's sake as well, because he's trying to show Carl that he doesn't have to be this fighter and this violent person that he's become. This is very quickly disproven, unfortunately, because Daryl's group finds Rick. Daryl tries to defend Rick, and he starts to get beaten to death for it. And this is where Rick snaps, and it was easily the most brutal part of the season, I think, because we see Carl being dragged out of the car. He is about to be raped by this big fat guy, who just a sick bastard. And then we have Michonne held at gunpoint, and they're likely going to rape her as well, kill them all, and then shoot Rick. And Rick just snaps. He headbutts the guy holding him hostage, and then he ends up biting the guy's jugular and kills him that way. He essentially becomes a walker almost, because he uses the same type of techniques for killing that they would. And because of the shock of this, Michonne was able to get her gun and shoot most of the guys. Rick takes the knife and just basically guts the guy who's trying to rape Carl. And Carl witnesses this whole thing, obviously, and it kind of reawakens something in him as well. So we have Daryl, Rick, Carl, and Michonne all together. They arrive at Terminus. They're very weary of it at first because of everything that they've dealt with. They're very safe. They sneak in. They go in very wearily. They meet up with some people. They meet the leader, whose name I don't remember. Rick notices that one of their people has Herschel's watch, which he gave to Glenn. Glenn, Maggie, Abraham, Eugene, all of them, they have arrived at Terminus, and which we saw in the penultimate episode. And then Rick snaps. He holds the guy at gunpoint, and all hell breaks loose again. The four of them are running through the place of Terminus. They are essentially moved with the gunfire because people are shooting at their feet and trying to block their way with gunfire and basically forcing them to go in a certain direction. They all get eventually moved into this metal crate and lured there. This is where the group reunites, because we see Rick and his group, and then we see Glenn and his group. They reunite, and Rick knows that they can take out this place now. And that's where it ends. That's where season 4 ends. While it did have its slow moments in the show, I did overall very much enjoy it. The season finale was so much better than season 3's. If you remember, I despised season 3's finale because it was all happy and everyone's great. This one was not. We see a Rick and group who are ready to take down Terminus, and the one thing that I'm kind of curious about is first off, where Carl and Tyrese and Judith are, because they were headed to Terminus as well, and then also Are they going to account for the time lapse of the show, because we're going to have Carl getting older and all the characters aging? So are they going to just say that they've been trapped in Terminus for about 6 months or so? Or are they going to, or I guess a year, technically by the show's timeline, or are they going to just kick it off right from where season 4 left off and just continue it that way? It'll be interesting to see, and I'm very much looking forward to it in October when season 5 premieres. Oh no! If you want to see my thoughts on the first 10 episodes of season 4, you can click the link that's up here somewhere. You can also see my review of season 3 of The Walking Dead up here somewhere as well, and also the comic book reviews that I've done for the show, or for the books. Those will be up there as well. That's about it. Leave your thoughts on The Walking Dead Season 4 or any of the seasons of the show down here below. Do you like the show still, or are you one of the people that are not liking the show anymore? Because I've seen both sides of that, and obviously I'm personally still a big fan of it. I think they're doing fine. I like how they're moving in the same direction as the comic books, but they're doing it in their own way, which leaves fans unable to really predict the total outcome of the show each season. Yeah, that is about it. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe if you so choose. I'd appreciate it immensely. And as always, my good people, my name is Nick Pell, and once again, keep on watching.